This video is to document the testing of split molds for the use of biomass fuel briquettes. One of the engineers at Engineers Without Borders, Greater Cincinnati Professional, asked a good question the other day, and that was, had anyone ever investigated using split molds? And we could not locate any information on that. So we've put together 6 split molds. 3 of them have slots in the circumference, and there's 3 different sizes of slots. There's the 1/32 slot, 3/32 slot, and 1/8 inch slot. The molds will be held together a couple of different ways. One is just a wooden paddle that's sized to fit over the mold, and we found another way that's real kind of slick, and that is this is the coupling used to couple 2 3-inch PVCs together, and you cut a ring out of it and it just slips over very nicely. It makes a very nice holder for the material. So we'll be placing the ring in the center of the mold as it goes into the press, and then removing it. The other mold is the holes in the side. We have 1/8 inch holes, 3/16 inch holes, and 1/4 inch holes. We will be doing a total of 36 tests. We will not be showing all 36 tests. We will be showing just one result for each mold, and that is we will be actually separating the mold 3 different ways for each biomass material. The first will be we'll separate it across the diameter like that with the briquette material in there, and to see if it tears apart the briquette. Secondly, we'll be tipping it away from the diameter like that to see if perhaps that works better. And then thirdly, we'll be opening it like a book to see if that works better. We will show just one method in order to reduce the size of this video. So with that, we'll get started. We will be using 2 different mixtures. The first mixture is sawdust and paper pulp. The paper pulp is from black and white newspaper out of the local newspaper. It's mixed at a ratio of about 25% paper pulp and 75% sawdust and wood chips. The traditional hand squeeze test seems to be okay. It holds together and we can shake it without it falling apart. The second mixture is about 30% paper pulp and 70% leaves. The leaves are oak leaves that have been dried and crumbled into the size of cornflakes, and it seems to pass the hand test of holding together and being shaken. We'll fill our first mold with the sawdust and paper pulp mixture, and we'll show the pressing operation so that you see how the subsequent molds will be filled, pressed, but we'll not be showing that in an effort to save time on the video. Okay, this is our first test using 1/4 inch holes with the sawdust and paper pulp mixture. And this time we'll just pull apart the mold across the diameter. And that part comes out. Now we got to try and get this out. It does come out rather difficultly. Okay, we're still in the mold with the 1/4 inch holes, but now we've switched to the leaf and paper pulp mixture. And we'll open it across tipping it back like that. And that comes out. And that comes out with some difficulty. Now we switch to the second mold, which is holes on the side, but the holes are 3/16 in diameter as opposed to the first one that were 1/4 inch in diameter. And we'll move this by tipping the top back across the thing, and that certainly came out a lot easier than it did on the 1/4 inch. And this comes out a little bit easier than the 1/4 inch, and the briquette still pretty much seems to be intact. Okay, still 3/16 inch holes. We've switched to the paper pulp and leaf mixture, and we'll separate it across the diameter. Comes out fairly easily, and that comes out fairly easily. Briquette's still very much intact. Okay, this is leaves and paper pulp with the 1/8 inch holes in the split mold. And we'll open this like a book. And no deterioration on the briquette. It works fairly good. This is the mold with the 1/8" holes using paper pulp and wood chip sawdust. Open it like a book. A little sticky, but it did come apart, did not hurt the briquette. Okay, now we switch to the mold with the slots in the side that are 1/8 inch in width. Also, our holder broke. We've had to put some metal strapping around it. Pressure of the press split it in two. Okay, we're going to separate this. This is sawdust, paper pulp. We're going to separate it by moving this back. And the briquette broke right here. It's fractured right here. Okay, 1/8" slots, leaves some paper pulp. We're going to open it like a book. Kind of tore it apart here. Not in real good shape. Okay, this is paper pulp and wood chip sawdust in the mold with the slots, the 3/32. And we'll open this like a book, like this, like that, and comes apart quite easily. No deterioration on the briquette. This is the 3/32 slotted mold. Remove the drainage tube. That off, and again we'll open this like a book, and it comes out very easily. I see no deterioration on the briquette. Okay, now we switch to the last mold, which is slots that are 1/32 inch in width, and we'll open this across the diameter. A little bit of sticking, but not very much. Comes out quite easily. Okay, now we switch to a leaf mixture for the slots that are 1/32 wide. And we'll tip this across the diameter like this. That's fairly easy. That's very easy. Okay, very much intact. Okay, we were quite pleased with the results of the small molds, the 3-inch PVC mold that was 3.5 inches high, that we decided to try a full-size mold. These are 16 inches high, made just as before, 1/8" holes, 1/2" centers, and we're using the one with 1/32 inch slots. Okay, we'll charge the first mold, put a ring on the base, and install the split mold. And we've learned from some previous testing with this that we do need to get these rings down fairly close to where the pressure is going to be applied in the final pressing operation. So we're going to put these fairly far toward the bottom, install the drainage tube, put our first charge in, squeeze a little bit of the water out. Now we'll go over to the large compound lever press for the pressing operation. Okay, back from the pressing operation, we'll open up the mold, slip the ring off the bottom, pop these off the top, and open up the mold like this. Keep the center drainage tube in, take that, twist the drainage tube out, and we've got 3 nicely formed briquettes. Very solid, they seem to be in very good integrity. Okay, back from the pressing operation for the leaves and paper pulp. And we'll pull this apart like we did before. This seems to work the best. We'll take one side off, pull out the other side with the drainage tube still installed, twist the drainage tube out to minimize the stress on the briquette, and we have 3 nicely formed leaves and paper pulp briquettes. Worked very well. The split mold came apart very easily. We've switched to the slotted mold with the 1/32 inch wide slots, and we loaded it with the sawdust paper pulp mixture. Slip that off, and we'll pull this apart like we did before. Pull that out, comes right apart, twist out the drainage tube, and we have 3 very nicely formed briquettes, and we did not have to use the press to do the removal, and we minimized the stress on the briquette. Okay, we're again with a split mold, 1/32 inch holes, just back from the pressing operation. Pulled apart like we did before. It comes apart very easily. We'll tip the briquettes out, twist out the drainage tube, and we've got 3 nicely formed briquettes with minimal stress on removing them from the mold. We thought of a couple things that are important when using split molds made out of PVC piping. One is registration, and the second is keeping track of matched pairs if you have a large quantity of molds, say a half a dozen or more in a production operation. To maintain proper registration was real easy. We just put a notch in each half of a matched pair mold, and to keep a track of which mold is which, we put a couple of saw kerf marks in each half of the mold. This is mold number 2, and this is the registration, so if they get all mixed up, it'd be very easy to sort them back out again. Another concern we had using split molds was the integrity of the mold if it were to get dropped. It's possible the mold could get dropped accidentally in a number of different situations. So with that in mind, we did some drop testing. We dropped the mold horizontally, we dropped it vertically, and we dropped it at an angle with the plunger installed from a height of 5 feet. In all of our drop testing, there was no deterioration in the mold stayed together, stayed registered, and when the briquettes were taken out, there was no deterioration of the briquette. So with that, we'll show you one of the typical tests.